Okay, my name is Brant Hunt, that is, Hunt, and I'm going to be discerning what is true, my channel here on YouTube and also live on Facebook and on Odyssey. I'm going to be reading chapter 3 of the book A Study of Numbers tonight. The author's name was Rene Schwaller de Lubicz, and chapter 3 is entitled The Cycle of Ideation. That's Idation. So we're going to go ahead and start reading this particular chapter at this point. The idea in energetic imagery of the form that is generated. When the generators are selected in the phases of polarization, they arrange themselves in the phase of ideation so as to fix the energetic shape. The complex of lines of force determines by the generate poles and to establish the potential skeleton of the physical form. In the preceding cycle, we saw numbers develop from unity, and we found the numbers 1 and 3 to be the qualities attached to the cycle. The other numbers issue from it, but the numbers 1 and 3 alone are indissoluble, linked to the cycle of polarization. The phase of ideation is in becoming, that is, Genesis, is essentially unstable and creative. It is the phase of the first procreation after the first procreation of absolute unity. And I do want to add something from the physical form. In this study, the term potential, meaning power, is understood in the sense of a accumulation of creative energy and not in the mathematical sense of a function or exponents. The numbers 1, 2, and 3, and 4, etc., up to 9, and then the powers 10, 20, 30, etc., now come to constitute the energetic foundations of physical forms. Throughout the preceding study, we have seen that first creation occurs by schisms, that is, additions, and we shall see now why procreation occurs by reproduction, that is, multiplication, and how this happens. Point: the first irreducible one generated the lines by addition, where it cannot manifest itself by multiplication, since 1 times 1 is always 1, and likewise 1 times a point always remains a point. The point will not become a line except by the being added to another point, or which amounts to the same thing, by separating one point into two. Hence, in creation, addition and division have the same effect. But addition presupposes the existence of an additional quality, which can exist only outside the irreducible one. Division, on the other hand, is the inverse function of multiplication. Hence, the irreducible one must be assumed to be multiplistic. And we now know how this original conflict is resolved. By the triple nature of the irreducible one, i.e., the quality which allows one to conceive the procreating function, during which division is simultaneously addition being the consequence of division, and division generates multiplication. So 1 is the generate point, 2 is the point generated by division, 3 is the point generated by addition. The number 3 is the effect of 1. The number 2 is generated by division, itself the inverse function of multiplication, the cause not yet having an effect. The number 3 is the first complete solution of the creative function, and since it is engendered by the first multiplication of 2, gives the first procreation state. That is why the tetragrammation, or the tetrax, I don't know how to pronounce this, I'm going to say Tetraktys, tetrax, and indeed all that archaic or magical symbolism expressed by the number 4 signifies both the last term of creation, the first term of the manifested existence of being, because it is the first stable figure, the square. You see, if you have a table, you have to have 4 legs. Most tables will not stand 3 legs, because they're not equal. You see, 4 contains the secret to the first procreation. This is the only phase of existence in which there is a first term which is created and a last term which is the first procreated one. Characteristic of the phase of ideation. The point can only create by addition, that is, division, and the resulting line can only procreate and never create. A line added to itself is and always remains a line, whereas as soon as it is multiplied by itself, a line becomes a face. The numbers 1, 3, 5, and 7 are the creative numbers since they do not contain any procreative form. They are the prime or uncomposed numbers. In other words, they generate all figures and forms and play with regard to concrete manifestation the same role that the irreducible one plays with regard to the abstract world. By addition, these creative numbers can produce other prime or uncomposed numbers in the series of procreation, such as 11, which is the first representation in the concrete world of the functions of 11 in the abstract world. This is because 11 is intermediate, just as 2 is, and results from addition of 1, 3, 5, and 7, and does not include multiplication. The numbers 1, 3, and 5, and 7 are the generators in the phase of ideation. By multiplication with themselves, they produce faces, are only engendered by addition, and provide a perfect transition from the abstract to the concrete through the phase of ideation. We have said that the square is the first stable face. By stable, we mean what is the consequences of a always equal function and produces no complex effect that diverges from the natural consequences of the first function. The face which has 4 sides is not the first face, for 3 vertices are sufficient to establish a face, so that the first face is therefore the triangle. The triangle, however, as soon as it is multiplied by itself, immediately produces a square. It differs in this from the first stable face of the square, as we shall see in the next cycle. The function presiding over the cycle of ideation is the multiplication of a simple or complex unity not itself engendered by multiplication. The natural consequence of this function is the creation of the face. The triangle does not conform to this law. It is a face not engendered by multiplication, but resulting from the first schism, that is addition. On the other hand, it is not really a definite constitute or a stable face, for it engenders a stable face as a result of multiplying itself. The first perfect triangle would therefore be one that would fulfill the following conditions: first, to be the first, first to be the first face; second, to be constituted by 3 verticals; third, to engender a stable face by multiplying itself; and fourth, to be constituted by a stable face, or at least to contain such potentiality. The apparent insurmountable difficulty that human reason encounters here is easily resolved by the knowledge that this short study of numbers has given us the first triangle. That is 1, 2, and 3. Fulfills all conditions except the first and the fourth. Indeed, there cannot be a face which only includes 1 unit of height to 2 units of length. This constitutes a line and not a face. Neither does it contains a stable face, as the fourth point requires. The second triangle, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, fulfills the first, second, and third conditions. The fourth condition will therefore be met, beginning with the third triangle. Okay. So this is the third triangle down here at the bottom. This constitutes the tetrus or quaternaire, which at first is the first possible face. Second is triangular, and by this fact makes up 3 verticals. Third, engendered by multiplication with itself a stable face, which is 9, as was shown above, and fourth potentially contains the first square, which is 4, since the first triangle triangle is, as we know, considered to be the first reducible unity. We must regard the quaternarian triangle as being potentially the first triangle constituted by 3 equal angles, which we can show thus. This is the 3 square triangles here. Let me take a drink here. This determines a triangle whose height is half as great as its base. This triangle clearly frames absolute unity, which is the vital breath in the things of this world. There are therefore in the quaternary triangle actually two distinct triangles. These are the triple creative nature in the one and this triple nature as manifested in the twice three unities of the first triangle. This figure, which is the first manifested triangle, fulfills all the conditions laid down above, engenders the perfect square, which is 9, where it contains all the numbers. In this way, all squares become divisible into two triangles, since 4 is 1 and 3, 9 is 3 and 6, etc. The squares beginning with 10 become compounds. The uneven, that is, positive masculine numbers form the square of whose two triangles, one is negative, the other being positive. Even and uneven, that is. The even numbers, meanwhile, give the square whose triangles are both negative or both positive. We cannot enter here into any explanation of the reason for this fact. It will be sufficient to indicate to the student that the even numbers are all compounds. 2 equals 2 times 1. 4 equals 2 times 2 equals 6 equals 2 times 3. 8 equals 2 times 4, etc. And this function determines the intermediate or variant form of the square, such as the figures or the parallelograms with two unequal sides. We have said that the essentially creative numbers are 1, 3, 5, and 7, and that they establish the following principles, which we find everywhere at the base of creation of the two natures. The multiplication of any quantity by itself, that is procreation, results from the addition of a positive, masculine, odd nature to a negative, that is a feminine, even nature. The other figures, that are pentagons, hexagons, polygons, are the effect of addition of different triangles and square figures, just as the numbers above 10 result from the fact of the addition to this 10 of the number 1 to 9. The square is the stable base of forms, you see. The student may here's a addition here. Also, the student may consult Theon, T-H-E-O-N, of Smyrna, for the technique of numbers. To develop the latter here would take us too far afield, given the small compass of our study. And that is the conclusion of the chapter, I guess. Yes, it is. Okay, we'll stop here, and then we'll do chapter 4 in a minute. Okay.